energy. And in order to demonstrate the kind of collective action and impact that I'm talking about, we are going to require all levels of CMHA to contribute time, expertise, capacity, and resources to support work in some of the areas that we all agree we can have greater collective impact. Some of those areas may be fundraising, it may be strategic communications and media relations, it could be influencing public policy and system planning, it could focus on our health literacy, improving literacy and mental health and so on. But that's where your input will be helpful as we move forward. And that's how we've designed our sessions here on strategic planning. Many organizations go through change processes. They're not easy. And this is one model. And I'm not going to get into this in detail. There are many ways to transform organizations and go through change. But as you see, you have to begin with the end in mind and create the roadmap. That's what our strategic planning exercise is all about. We have been assessing readiness for change. We need to understand the context, both internally and externally, for change. We need to have support from all levels of the organization if we really can achieve change. And we need to know what kinds of skills, where are the, what do we need to move forward, where are our supporters, and frankly, who are our blockers, and how do we work with them to make the changes. We need to establish the need for change, and in doing so, showcase our unique abilities and strengths. We need to create some stretch targets, and I think fundraising is definitely one of those stretch targets for us. We need to communicate our vision and behave in ways consistent with our vision. I'm trying very hard when I say that I want us to work as a collective. I try to do that so that there are times that rather than me being at a national meeting, I'm asking one of our division CEOs to represent us at a national meeting. And so we need to walk the talk as well. And again, I hope you'll all join me in walking the talk moving forward. We need to obviously create the mechanisms and structures to work differently, and I touched on this earlier, and reward our people for new behaviors and achieving targets, and we need to also ensure that we engage in two-way communication around our decision making. And if we can get through this process, and these are our long-term journey processes, this occurs over many years, and this is just one model, so again, take what you want, leave the rest. But this is where we need to get to. We have to align our strategy, our vision and our mission with our structure and our people and our rewards and our information and decision making. Right now I think we're in misalignment, and to get to a new aligned state, I think the strategic plan gives us a 3 to 5 year roadmap, and then post that probably some more tweaking, but I'd really like for us all to keep in mind 2018. Let's all agree that by 2018, 7 years, and I know that seems like a long time for change, but change is slow, and it's difficult. Let's all work towards having a strong, unified CMHA for our 100th birthday, our 100th anniversary. And I'm in for the long haul, folks, unless you don't leave some stuff and take some things the wrong way. This is where we need to get to in terms of our redesign. We need to line up all those elements in relation to our environment, and we really need to focus on the people thing as well. As I said earlier, strategy is one thing, but we need our people to, our staff to help us move it forward. I'm sure you're all have experienced different versions of this slide. This is what I mean by a long-term journey. Change in organizations is complex. And if we don't get alignment on all of the elements over the journey, we can experience confusion, anxiety, very slow change, lots of frustration, lots of false starts. And if we can get all the pieces lined up, we can achieve change. And I think that the strategic planning process is going to help us in terms of the elements related to skills and incentives and resources and action plan. And all of those pieces are going to help us position CMHA in order to improve our ability to obtain additional resources. Because again, without that, I don't think we can be strong and work as one. Now, just a couple of minutes on the future of whoops, let me go back for a sec. Future of mental health in Canada. I think mental health in this country, mental illness, is going to continue to increase in profile. I'm very hopeful that our first ever national mental health strategy will get government approval. That's going to increase the profile. The corporate sector is going to continue to be very connected. I really feel Bell and others are not in this just for one shot. I think there's going to be more investment. So I really do think the profile is going to continue. We're going to continue to have the debates, though, between the formal system and the community sector or the informal system in terms of mental health and mental health services. And we'll always, as a community sector, probably feel underfunded. We're not going to win that debate. We're going to continue to try. We're going to continue to push for more resources, but I'm not sure we'll win the debate. But we also, though, need to ensure that people who need services not only through the community sector but through the formal system get those services through the formal system. We have a role in ensuring that the formal system has the array of services required. And we know that evidence is out there for different types of services, cognitive behavioral therapy being one of those, is an important ingredient of our formal system and not part of the formal system in most provinces in Canada. And it's profound. It's discrimination. And so there's an example of where we need to have a role to influence the formal system and governments to allow that system to do what's required to meet the needs of people with mental health problems, while we're still advocating and pushing for more resources for our services and bolstering the community sector. The other thing that I think we're going to see is a continued emphasis on population health, or a whole of population approach. And certainly in British Columbia and Ontario, this has formed new mental health and addiction strategies in their provinces, and same may be true in a couple of other provinces. But this whole of government, whole of population approach, which takes into consideration various stages of mental health and mental illness, right from upstream through to the very severe and chronic cases, we play a role in all of those pieces. And I think traditionally in the past, probably more to the right-hand side of that continuum, and more over the last number of years, moving more upstream. And we need to continue to do that. We need to position ourselves as dealing with all of these pieces, and we need to have the capacity to deal with all of those pieces as we move forward. The other thing that I think we're poised for in Canada is mental health and mental illness moving in a direction similar to other social issues like HIV/AIDS, physical disabilities, where we linked the issue. We link mental health and mental illness to human and civil rights, empowerment, participation, which we're all about as an organization, and human dignity. And there is a session tomorrow, a partnership between the Commission, the Human Rights Commission of Canada, and CMHA, where we're beginning to look at this. This is about human rights. We talk about stigma. This is not stigma. This is discrimination, and discrimination is about human rights. And so I think there's been huge success in other causes, and we need to get there, and I think we're starting to move down that path in Canada. The other thing that I'm hopeful for in Canada around mental health and mental illness is that we make it more explicit in planning and policy, whether it's within the health agenda, because if it's not explicit, it's implicit, and when it's implicit, it doesn't get its day. We have to make it explicit. We've got to make it explicit in other planning sectors, whether it's justice, education, and so on. A great example of this is in 2014, Canada's Health Accord is being renegotiated. Obviously, it's going to be about health. Obviously, everyone thinks health is about physical and mental health. But you can be sure, unless we and others make mental health an explicit part of that agenda, the focus will be on physical health only. And so we have a role in this as well, and we've got to do it in relationship with other partners. We also can't continue to ignore the connection between mental health and addiction. There's been a lot of talk in this country, and things look very differently in different provinces. Some provinces have brought the two together, some keep them apart. Whatever the case, if they're still apart, it's mainly because of history. It's not because of what the evidence tells us, and it's not because of people's needs. We know that most people dealing with a mental health problem have an addiction problem, and vice versa. Yes, there's significant situations where the two are separate, but the two services have to be coordinated and connected. And I think as a national mental health association, knowing that, knowing the needs of the people we serve, we have to get on this agenda. We have to have some discussion. It's been happening in provinces. We've got to have it happen across the country, and we need to influence that agenda in provinces and across this country. So I really think a lot of those areas are areas where we can play a significant leadership role, and there are other areas as well. I am confident that we can play a more significant role, even as the landscape continues to change around us. But we have to change with it, and I think we can do that. I am running out of time, but can I have 5 minutes for just? I want to ask a question. So I wanted to end on this. I can't ask you or convince you to change. You have to decide if you feel there's a need for change. But I think we can all show each other how we might be able to change. And so I think there's a couple of mics here. We don't have a lot of time for this, but I'd like to hear from one or two of you. What are the one or two things that I can do as the national CEO to support change, to create and build a unified CMHA? And in telling me that, tell me one or two things that you can do in your role in CMHA to support change and create a united CMHA. So who wants to be first up? Steve Laurie. Thank you very much. I knew I could count on you, Steve. Okay.
Really young, 36 years. And then I was listening to Peter talk about what makes a difference for us and what Claire Hinks found so many years ago. And it seems to me that one of those key strategic directions about encouraging, assuring quality services, and we've had the debate here about quality services in CMHA, but if we broaden that to say ensuring quality services for anybody with a mental health issue in the country, so that includes us. But 1 in 3 people get mental health services in this country who have mental health problems, and 2 out of 3 people who have mental health issues don't get them. We wouldn't tolerate that for cancer. So I think if there's one thing Peter and we do collectively is we say that has to change. And the way we say that has to change, I just finished looking at the public accounts in Ontario for spending in community mental health. Mike Petrenko will love this number. So the proportion of health spending in Ontario on community mental health services is 1.31%. Now, if you look at the dollar amount, $700 million, but 1.31% of health spending, and actually investing $160 million a year over 10 years new in Ontario would add 0.34% to health spending. So I think the one thing that Peter and we need to collectively do is get increased mental health spending on the agenda for the Health Accord.
Yep. Okay.
I got to tell you that there are discussions in the Commission because there's some worry about this, whether that makes sense. So it doesn't matter. Let the Commission decide what they do. But I think what we do is we can push in ways perhaps that the Commission can't. And we could be bold. We could say, if mental illness affects 20% of the population, then 20% of all new spending in the Health Accord should go to improving mental health services.
Okay.
So I think that's the one thing we can do. And then we can work together with you to show in our provinces what percentage of mental health spending is actually devoted to community capacity. And I'm not just talking about community services for people with serious mental illness. I'm talking about better linkages with primary care. Most people want to get services in their community. They don't want to go to some big hospital somewhere, even though CMHA is terrific. They don't want to go to hospital. They want to live in their community. And the kind of work that's been going on in BC here, which is sort of taking services to college campuses, to primary care, that's the model for us to move forward. So I encourage us to get this on the agenda, and we're really willing to work with you to make it happen.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Okay, well, feel free to send me an email. pcoleridge@cmha.ca. It's an easy one. One thing that I can do to support change, and one thing you can do to support change and create a stronger, unified CMHA. I want to leave you with this. I really feel CMHA is only as strong as the sum of its parts, and I know that many of you are thinking, oh yeah, right. Peter wants us to contribute time, resources, expertise,